when you were talking about that place in your career where you're deciding to move to Sydney or Singapore, and it sounds like neither was really the preferred option. So much of SaaS and tech, especially over the last couple of years, has given people the flexibility for remote or hybrid arrangements. When you're looking at like data center operator, though, you're either physically working on site full time or just a lot of travel. There may be some pockets, right, like within the ecosystem that sometimes sells to or partners with data centers where there's more flexible, but it's still very location dependent, right?
Yeah, so from an operational perspective, and that's sort of one of my key areas that I get excited for and do a lot of support in is we have a building or we have a floor or a space. How do we optimize that operationally? That's the staff, that's the mechanical, it's the electrical, that's the the cross connects, the ticketing system, the list goes on around all that fun and games. But you're exactly right, Josh, with the whole premise of if you're an operational person and you're running that particular site, you have to be in that area to support that site. And if you're running multiple sites, you have to be within their main regions to do so. Look at the US, sometimes the head offices are in, and they're moving around more and more, but New York and LA, I've now see some that are in Denver. Sometimes they have a head office, but not a facility there. Doesn't mean that you have to be in the head office, but you have to be close proximity to the facility. And that's something I've found is in other areas, I've got teams that are literally all around the world, and they support the Australian business, but they're not based in Australia. That's okay. It's a time zone problem to have, not a location problem to have. Be mindful that you are taking calls very early, sometimes earlier than 7 a.m., sometimes very late, and that's a part of the role as well. We're facing a 9 to 5 in the DC world. Has unless you're in a particular area of administration, let's call it. So the legal, generally speaking, has a window. Because it's much easier to be focused and work through that time zone. The finance, not saying that they all don't work crazy hours, they all do, but generally speaking, they're more blockable as opposed to a 24-hour operation like, the DC world and the network operation centers and the secure operation centers and things like that. So having, a larger bandwidth means that you can work multiple hours or, beyond your normal, the standard, what we've known as the 9 to 5, which I don't think it's standard anymore. I think everyone that seems to work from home, I start at 7, finish at 7 most days and nights. So, the conventional timing is out the window, providing that you can pick up children, you can pick up, the groceries and do some things, that you would normally do in those times that you normally try and not work. You can work from home and continue doing that.
Yeah, I've even noticed in the last couple of years, it used to be 10 years ago that being available a couple of evenings a week covered the full US. Like I'm on the East Coast of the US, so work late on like a Tuesday or Thursday evening, and you have plenty of time to meet with clients that are on the US West Coast. Now that we're so globalized and I'm taking meetings all day long throughout Europe and throughout APAC and everything, there's no concept of what standard hours work anymore if you're truly, so it's just something people need to be realistic about and get used to with staffing.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's something that we've seen, as these DCs are getting acquired by, you just mentioned before, big financial companies, all the interns are going, I've got a brand new idea, let's buy into DCs. And everyone's like, we've all heard this before, but they find a small DC, whether it be in Boise or Arkansas or Oklahoma in the US or, places like Estonia. I had a customer who's got some racks in Estonia, of all places in the world, and in Eastern Europe. Why Estonia? But they're getting looked up. So we're seeing more and more of these pockets that are being sort of, they're little nuggets of gold that are being dug up and found that they have potential. So there's so much more financial reviews to go through, and so it adds a time zone complexity for some.